About last night, actually about the last debate, there were a couple moments from it that irked me a little bit. I'd like to comment on it. In general, I'm really happy with the way Yang performed. He performed as I want him to perform.
Is this why you're around all the time, keeping tabs on me because I don't need a babysitter?
Well, with respect, David, I think you do. You know, I'm aware of this management training thing you're doing tonight, and I'm worried it's going to affect your performance at work.
That's extracurricular, you know. Some people play golf.
Well, I play golf.
There you go. So...
Yes, but I'm performing as I want me to perform. You're not performing as I want you to perform.
I'm performing as I want me to perform.
I don't want you to perform like that.
It's a good performance. Let's agree to disagree.
No, let's agree that you agree with me.
Ooh, you're hard, showing off.
Okay, I think I've made my point, David. Okay, I'll see you later.
We need a guaranteed minimum income in the United States of America. That is the most effective way for us to address racial inequality in a genuine way and give every American a chance in the 21st century economy.
He got his message out, he introduced himself successfully, he got a lot of airtime, and he made the most of it. So, good job to Yang. And all the naysayers out there, they're gonna be like, no chance of winning. It's really hot take. Incredible. So brave of you. Well, the right thing doesn't always win. I mean, look around you. Biden should not be the front runner. Okay, so I don't give a shit. I actually prefer to be just right rather than, well, I'm supporting a guy. Why? Because I think he'll win. No, that's the stupidest idea ever. Support a guy because you'll want to support a guy, and he's the guy to support. But let's not talk about that. There was an interruption when Cory Booker was speaking, and it was hard to decipher at the time. They were chanting "Fire Pantaleo," who is the cop that apparently killed Eric Garner. Well, I say killed, I mean accidentally killed, wasn't trying to kill, but aided in the death of an asthmatic 400-pound man.
The President of the United States attacked an American city, calling it a disgusting, rat-infested, rodent mess. We need a nation that understands that these tired, old language,
Isn't it funny, like, how many black candidates have we ever had run for president? It's like Jesse Jackson, the rent is too damn high, dude, Obama, and then this guy. And these black protesters choose right now to start chanting this shit? It's unrelated. I mean, this guy is what? He's from New Jersey. Did this not happen in New York? It felt really weird because it came across like they were protesting Cory Booker, but they weren't. Anyway, Pantaleo was fired, and the cops are pissed about it. They're mad. In fact, I'm going to take this time to read an email I got, and I'm going to keep him anonymous, but he is a police officer from New York who's a fan of mine, and he wrote me this. Hey Devin, hope things are going well. I'm sure that you're aware of this, but I want to put it on your radar in case you missed it. Today, New York City handed down a decision to fire the police officer involved in the arrest of Eric Garner. So they fired Pantaleo. This will be the beginning of the end of civility of New York City. It's bad enough out here already, and it's getting worse. I have hundreds of acquaintances and many friends who I've spoken to on this job who will not be enforcing a law unless they are explicitly told to by a competent authority or they receive a radio run via the 911 system. Sorry, 911. 911's a different thing. Pretty much everybody on this job has taken this decision personally and will be reacting. Nobody has faith in our police commissioner. He is an empty suit, and our mayor is a joke both locally and nationally. We realize after this decision that we have no backing by the city of New York or by any far-left politician, and we will act accordingly, protecting each other and ourselves. And what he's talking about is the fact that they can scapegoat this guy and fire him, even after, I believe, multiple juries or oversight committees have looked at that and said he wasn't in the wrong. He didn't violate anything. There was no crime. In other words, yes, unfortunate. Yes, it was tragic. Yes, it was a gray zone area, but we're talking about a 3 to 4 second hold where he had around his neck, after which he said he couldn't breathe. So the fact that they can fire him means they don't have the cops back, which means they got to protect themselves. For starters, physically, but then also legally and financially. Because politically, they're going to get left out to dry because there's an angry mob out there and they want blood and they want heads to roll. They don't want to hear that the guy had a bad heart, that he had asthma, that it was an unfortunate sequence of events. He resisted arrest. That's why they needed to use force. The guy fell to the ground. He was on top of his back, fell to the ground. He didn't have balance. He was holding on for dear life. And then the second he got his bearings, the second he got his knees under him, he released the hold. So they got him down. Okay, it's good. Over in a matter of seconds. You really think that you can kill a man in 3 to 4 seconds with a hold like that? I mean, I understand there was damage done, but this was an unintended consequence, an unfortunate one, and that is not a criminal act. So my cop friend continues. He says, "This city and its leadership have made it impossible to properly uphold the oath we swore to when we became New York City police officers. Unfortunately, New York City will be going the way of Chicago, hands-off policing, respond to people who call for help, and allow the city to burn. It's not what we want to happen to the city, it's what they have forced us to do." Anyway, hope all is well. Feel free to contact me anytime if the story interests you. It's definitely going to be a big deal for New York City. So this is a cop who's been on the force for years. He took me around in his squad car. He gave me a rough ride. No, it was a calm ride, but I mean, he had stories. He's like, there's a crack house right there. I got into a gun battle here. I fought a man right there. And there were dudes going around, perps, guys that he had put in jail who had since come out of jail, who recognized him, and he recognized them. The guy knows his beat. He's of New York City. And he's saying the cops aren't liking this, and the cops cannot speak out. This guy's he's not gonna do a donut operator. Is that guy even a cop? I doubt he is an active cop, because they would get fired. You're not supposed to. It's like you're not allowed to speak your mind as a cop. You're supposed to follow orders and do what you're told. But if what you're being told is, we don't have your back, and if there's enough public pressure, we'll fuck your life over and sacrifice you to the bloodthirsty mob who's controlled by public opinion and propaganda, then we'll do it. And that's just not cool. And in that case, the Eric Gardner case, it all comes down to this chokehold thing, because chokeholds are banned. They once were allowed to use them, now they're not. And what he did was more like holding on for dear life as they both came crashing down to the ground, and he held onto his neck for a couple seconds. I mean, we're talking about a short amount of time. The guy died an hour later in the hospital. I mean, to pretend like there's not other medical conditions at play here is kind of insane to me. Anyway, that didn't stop, who is she, Senator Gillibrand? I think it's her last debate, but she went out in a blaze of glory, and here's what she said.
I think as a white woman of privilege who is a U.S. Senator running for President of the United States, it is also my responsibility to lift up those voices that aren't being listened to.
It's a really weird appeal to say, vote for me, and here's why you should vote for me, because I acknowledge my privilege, because, you know, white people, we have such an easy life, we're all senators. So I'm going to uplift voices that aren't being listened to. Well, who's not listening to these voices? Clearly not you, because you're so magnanimous. But if you want to hear their voices so bad, why don't we just elect one of them? I mean, is this the only platform? It's like you're either a senator or a president or no one listens to you? Is that what we're saying? I mean, if you want to lift up a voice, vote for Kamala Harris. She's black, and that's like her basic message. It's, I'm black, vote for me. Sorry, I'm a black woman, vote for me.
And I can talk to those white women in the suburbs that voted for Trump and explain to them what white privilege actually is.
Good. She's going to do seminars, little workshops. They're going to do a little Pilates, then they're going to do a kale enema, and then it's going to be, here's why you suck and are racist.
That when their son is walking down a street with a bag of M&Ms in his pocket, wearing a hoodie, his whiteness is what protects him from not being shot.
That is, okay, on second pass, that is probably the stupidest thing I've heard all year. You know why? Because he had Skittles, not M&Ms. Please understand the difference. Okay, I'm aware that both have multiple colors, but their tastes are quite different. Taste the rainbow is not melts in your mouth. All right, so you have been discredited. When you say M&Ms, it was Skittles. The details matter. You see a guy with M&Ms. That's a non-threat. That's a potential friend. I might want to high-five that man. Man with Skittles? That's a danger. That's a menace to society. Okay, so, I mean, she has basically cobbled together whatever retarded rich white woman talking points that have made it to her bubble. And those talking points were what? Say it again. That when their son is walking down a street with a bag of M&Ms in his pocket, wearing a hoodie, his whiteness is what protects him from not being shot. Utterly fucking despicable. And by the way, neither here nor there, there's a large beetle, looks like a cockroach, on your chest. Just sitting there. I don't know what it is. I don't know if that's like your Disney mascot sidekick, but it might have Skittles on it, so you might want to shoot it. So he was wearing a hoodie that had nothing to do with anything. There were multiple break-ins in that area. what's his name? That little Mexican dude. He was upset. What was his name?
David, please research.
George Zimmerman. Right. George Zimmerman. He didn't shoot him for the hoodie. He shot him because his life was put in danger because Trayvon, here comes a verb. Be ready for the, I know it doesn't really work with the victim narrative. Victims tend to be verbed. Some guy verbed me. I was beaten. I was shot. I was attacked. But here, Trayvon verbed Zimmerman. He attacked. He punched Zimmerman. He beat up Zimmerman. Trayvon did something. Cause and effect. Trayvon, it has nothing to do with his dietary habits or his attire. It was his actions. And they speak louder than words and they taste louder than Skittles. That's a work in progress. So that is such a crazy misunderstanding, whether intentional or not. Either way, it's inexcusable. For her to present that, I mean, they used to teach us in history class, the reason we study history is to not repeat it. And it's also, you got to understand what actually happened. Understand that history is written by the victors. It is spun. History is whoever wrote the book. It's their perspective, their bias. And the truth actually matters. And when you have a story like this, that this happened a couple years ago. And for people to just whitewash this or just paint this as something that it wasn't, and for people to just accept that, they clapped to this line. They think this is an accurate assessment of what happened. George Zimmerman shot this guy because he was wearing a hoodie. It's just bizarre. It's fucking crazy. There's no reason for this to be acceptable. It is not. And also, she was also throwing white people under the bus. So a Mexican kills a black, fuck whites, is the message. Is that amazing? Eminem called in and were like, keep us the fuck out of this. All right, we do not need to take the hit. Not this quarter. So she's saying, oh yeah, white people never get shot. What? Have you looked at the stats? Jilly Brand? Have ya? White people get shot all the time. You know that thing in Vegas where that country music festival got shot up and like 80 people died? What happened to the whiteness force field of protection and privilege? Yeah, I guess the guy from the Bellagio didn't give a shit.
Damn it wasn't the Bellagio, it was the Circus.
When their child has a car that breaks down and he knocks on someone's door for help and the door opens and the help is given, it's his whiteness that protects him from being shot.
Huh? She's just doing this weird alarmist thing like black people are being shot all the time. It's not the case. It's so false. It's so bullshit. People react to what you do, okay? People defend themselves if they're attacked. People start shit, and then people react to shit. And then people like this swing in and just ignore all of that and gloss it over with, I'm against whites and yay for blacks. They do nothing wrong. It's hideous.
That is what white privilege in America is today.
Yeah, fuck off. I'm glad you're not in the next debate.
And so my responsibility is to not only lift up those stories, but explain to communities across America, like I did in Youngstown, Ohio, to a young mother, that this is all of our responsibilities.
Huh? Young mothers in Ohio, it's their job to prevent George Zimmerman from protecting his life? Huh?
And that together we can make our community stronger.
Thank you, Senator Gillibrand.
Oh yeah, togetherness. Yeah, really, that I feel united. Do you guys? So she spends the entire time dividing us racially, and then at the end she says, together. Nice try.
This was a good example the other day of the Department of Justice not going after Officer Pantaleo. That, Officer Pantaleo used a chokehold that was prohibited by NYPD. He did that for 7 seconds, 11 different times. Eric Garner said that he couldn't breathe. He knew what he was doing, that he was killing Eric Garner, and yet he has not been brought to justice. That police officer should be off the street.
A couple claims there. He says that it took 7 seconds, that he choked him for 7 seconds. I doubt that. And he also said he knew what he was doing. Well, how did he know what he was doing if the I cannot breathe stuff came after the choke? He said I cannot breathe 11 times or whatever after the choke. So you might have had a case if he's choking him and he's like, I can't breathe, and yet he continued to choke him. But the second they had detained the guy, he stopped. And then he said he couldn't breathe. And then they gave him medical attention, but it was too late. So let's take a look.
Now responding to the white police officer seen here, not facing charges for holding down an unarmed black man, Eric Garner, in an apparent chokehold that is said to have eventually killed him. Protests breaking out in Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, and Oakland, California.
Don't touch him.
Outrage sparked by this video from July. Garner, who had been accused of selling cigarettes illegally on New York's Staten Island, seen here being taken down by NYPD officer Daniel Pantaleo. The officer apparently using a banned chokehold.
I guess it is 7 seconds if you start from when he stands up and puts his arm around his neck, which is more of a headlock. Choking someone out, you have to really torque and apply a squeeze. I mean, people can't breathe. So you're trying to detain a huge man, and you grab him by the neck, and you dogpile him, and he's resisting, and you go to the ground, and then you detain him. I mean, was his method allowable? I mean, if you say no, that's a long way from murder, and it's a long way from firing someone. So this idea that the guy should be, oh yeah, fuck him forever because this happened in the aftermath, it seems very punitive and vindictive for the cop. And by the way, what does firing him do, per se? Because they've given up on trying to arrest him for a crime. They tried, it didn't work. Because shit happens. If you're arresting someone and they're resisting and you have to detain them with force, there's going to be bumps and bruises along the way. And if a guy has a medical condition, that's unfortunate. But it's even more reason to not resist arrest.
Heard earlier Mayor de Blasio respond to Secretary Castro on the question of why the police officer who killed Eric Gardner is still
Garner, not Gardner.
On the NYPD. Was that response adequate? Please respond.
When you know because you have a video, when you know he said I can't breathe so many times over and over again, when you know he used an illegal chokehold, that person should be fired. And as I was...
And so that is a very irritating thing that she just said. And she said it on a huge platform. So millions of people heard that. And there's no rebuttal. CNN didn't stop her and say, wait a minute, he said I can't breathe after the so-called choke. After the choke. And her point right now, the point she's making is he should have known as the police officer that what he was doing was preventing this guy from breathing. The guy was in medical danger. And why? Because he was saying I can't breathe. The only problem with that is that he said it after the choke.
If I was the mayor, I'd fire him. But as president, I would make sure that we had a full investigation, that the report would be made public. And if I wasn't satisfied, we would have a consent decree.
And so here are the protesters outside. Here's what they were talking about. The guy he seems a bit like a circus freak. Let's watch.
To nullify Black Lives.
But for all of us coming late to the interview here, tell us what just happened.
Well, we all just decided that we were going to express our views about Mayor de Blasio's lack of leadership.
Oh, come on, man. You can't be serious. I'll tell you what happened here. We got a massive speech impediment. We got a guy who is half pimp, half reverend. Is there a difference even? And he's lisping his way through some wannabe civil rights case.
For his failure to fire Daniel Pantaleo, the killer of Eric Garner. The man who died, who was choked to death in front of the whole world, has been allowed to continue to enrich himself in the city of New York by remaining on the police force.
So I don't even think this is about this case. It's more about the larger issue, which is that these people hate the cops. Why do they hate the cops? I'm talking about the community, the bleep community, if you know what I mean. They hate the cops because the cops are the adults in the room who have to regulate their shenanigans. Yeah, shenanigans is a word I'll use. I don't care. I'll do it. And so it's not really about Pantaleo. It's about the idea of a white cop accidentally playing a part in the death of an obese black man. So they don't like the dynamics of that. But if that cop was black, there'd be far less concern over this. Far less.
By padding his pension, by getting...
And by the way, Pantaleo, I don't know any Pantaleos, but I'm guessing he's not from Ireland.
Raise after raise. He's richer today than before he killed Eric Garner, and it's under this mayor's watch that was allowed to happen. He wants to get up and proclaim himself to be a progressive.
A progressive?
Well, show us your progressive credentials. Don't sit there and say you wanna create a more equitable society for everyone, while back at home you're allowing police officers to kill without any recourse or accountability.
Marriage is what brings us together today.
These black men, and that's not going to happen.
You brought a handkerchief to a debate? What was the logic behind that? You brought a snot rag to a protest.
Eric Garner was choked to death after having screamed out, "I can't breathe," 11 times.
No, he wasn't. Close your mouth while we're at it. He wasn't choked to death after he screamed out, "I can't breathe," 11 times. He was detained. The guy used a questionable headlock, which slipped onto the chin. I mean, he wasn't cranking it like an official chokehold, but it did choke him. But it wasn't intentional, and Eric Garner did play a part in this, and you can yell all you want, but there was no criminal activity. It didn't pass the sniff test. And also, he's just talking about this black guy. Like, that's the only, like, he's not gonna turn around tomorrow and protest some police brutality case against a white guy, because he doesn't care, because he's a tribal racist. That's it. So this is just a front. They pretend like they're concerned about these events, and no, it's all about in-group, out-group. That's it.
And this man was the mayor when it happened, and he's the mayor today, and he's allowed Daniel Pantaleo to continue to enrich himself and to get richer and richer off of our dollars, and now he wants to export that across the country. It's not going to happen.
Why did you interrupt Cory Booker instead of...
No.
That's not what happened.
Yeah, you did. Yes, you did. Why'd you interrupt a black man? Why'd you do that?
They interrupted Cory Booker. We made our statement, and they decided minutes later they were going to come back and escort us out after we had made our statement and was done and ready to enjoy the rest of the debate.
Oh, perfect. Passing the blame. So they had yelled and bitched before. The security came to pick them up, and they decided to bitch again. And it happened to be when Cory Booker was speaking. So you cared more about yourself than your fellow black man, Cory Booker, and you rained on his parade. Good job. See, notice me, I'm special. Not playing by the rules. Not at all.
That's right. So you actually said something during de Blasio.
That's correct.
We said fire Daniel Pantaleo.
We said fire Pantaleo.
Okay, we couldn't catch it on the inside.
Fire
Pantaleo.
That's it.
It was over.
Yeah, those are against the rules, so get the fuck out.
So they were escorting you out as
That's
Booker
correct.
was...
No, they weren't escorting. They came back and said that if he didn't leave, he would be arrested. And we said, you can't take him out. We're here to enjoy the debate. We're going to stay and watch.
Suffering succotash is all I have to say to that. And to cap off this absolute weird night of television viewing, I don't even know how to set this up, but this man had the audacity, the negrosity, to post this on Twitter. He did a Twitter video. Watch.
Hey, Twitter world. Is it my imagination that Yang and Gabbard are the only two who know how to follow the rules of this debate? I'm just saying.
Well, OJ, Juice, my man, I'm just saying a couple things right here. For you to talk about following the rules, I don't care what year it is. It's always 1994 in my brain. We ain't over that. We not cool with that. You killed 2 white people, if we want to get technical. But, you know, this pretty much applies to anyone who killed 2 anybody's innocent people. That's what I'm concerned about. You're a double murderer, so don't you fucking dare tell me about following rules. I don't care if you're hyping up Yang, my boy, and saying that he is following the rules, which he was. You don't get a right to speak on that. How is Twitter? Where's the morality of Twitter? I've been banned from Twitter like 6 times. I haven't killed 2 people. I killed the 1 hobo in '89, but that was accidental. That was a hit and run. And the statute of limitations is up on that, so I'm clean. So OJ, just shut your beak. Good Lord. That is completely aggravating. Anyway, Yang stepped up. I'm going to leave you with a little Yang-gasm. Here's some of what he said at that debate.
Andrew Yang.
If you've heard anything about me and my campaign, you've heard that someone is running for president who wants to give every American $1,000 a month. I know this may sound like a gimmick, but this is a deeply American idea, from Thomas Paine to Martin Luther King to today. Let me tell you why we need to do it and how we pay for it. Why do we need to do it? We already automated away millions of manufacturing jobs, and chances are your job could be next. If you don't believe me, just ask an auto worker here in Detroit. How do we pay for it? Raise your hand in the crowd if you've seen stores closing where you live. It is not just you. Amazon is closing 30% of America's stores and malls and paying 0 in taxes while doing it. We need to do the opposite of much of what we're doing right now, and the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math. So let me share the math. $1,000 a month for every adult would be $461 million every month right here in Detroit alone. The automation of our jobs is the central challenge facing us today. It is why Donald Trump is our president, and any politician not addressing it is failing the American people. You know what the talking heads couldn't stop talking about after the last debate? It's not the fact that I'm somehow number 4 on this stage in national polling. It was the fact that I wasn't wearing a tie. Instead of talking about automation in our future, including the fact that we automated away 4 million manufacturing jobs, hundreds of thousands right here in Michigan, We're up here with makeup on our faces and our rehearsed attack lines, playing roles in this reality TV show. It's one reason why we elected a reality TV star as our president. We need to be laser focused on solving the real challenges of today, like the fact that the most common jobs in America may not exist in a decade, or that most Americans cannot pay their bills. My flagship proposal, the Freedom Dividend, would put $1,000 a month into the hands of every American adult, be a game changer for millions of American families. If you care more about your family and your kids than my neckwear, enter your zip code at yang2020.com and see what $1,000 a month would mean to your community. I have done the math. It's not left, it's not right, it's forward, and that is how we're going to beat Donald Trump in 2020.